everybody, and welcome to part 2 of this reaction. Hope you guys enjoy. Like in the last video, subscribe to Site42 and myself, and if they have any merch that's really cool, go support them. With all that out the way, let's get back into it.
This red, white, and blue bastard, I will do it in a heartbeat. Buffoons. The Muppets aren't SCPs, but if they were, how would the SCP Foundation contain them? Walking, talking, puppet-like entities? These definitely seem like something we ought to contain, along with our menagerie of living stuffed animals. Most of the Muppets, like Scooter, Sam the Eagle, Rolf, and the rest, are easy enough to contain in basic humanoid containment chambers, object class Euclid. However, we should have particularly reinforced rooms for Sweetums, who habitually runs through walls, Crazy Harry, who always seems to have another explosive on its person, and Gonzo, due to whatever maddeningly chaotic thing it does next. Some researchers would suggest that Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and its assistant Beaker may seem well suited to working at the Foundation, or at least given privileges to perform experiments to help us further technologically. Those researchers are fools. If you've seen the multitude of ways those two's inventions could be detrimental to containment staff, you'd change your mind in a snap. The security contingent assigned to Miss Piggy is to be staffed with twice as many guards as usual, and those particular guards must have scored highly on their close quarters combat courses, for reasons I think are obvious. Animals to be kept in a state of permanent tranquilization after the Kappa 7 incident. And their leader, Kermit the Frog, kept in a completely different site from the rest of them. I will not have any rousing speeches leading to a containment Report! What do you mean you didn't give a large enough dose? Get me Delta... The Jedi are not SCPs, but if they were, how would the SCP Foundation contain them? The Jedi, the Sith, and all other types of Force users have a vast array of anomalous abilities at their disposal. Increased strength, speed, and stamina, able to leap incredible heights, telekinesis, tossing lightning around, mental influence, and that's not even an exhaustive list. Raw power-wise, we have seen Force users rip Star Destroyers out of the sky. So how would the SCP Foundation contain such entities? Our simplest solution would be to obtain some Isalamars. These creatures nullify Force sensitivity within their perimeter due to being hunted by creatures who use the Force to hunt them. With a stacking effect, the more of them you have around. A prison stocked with Isalamar would be a very effective containment. Except, okay, let's say our Foundation spacecraft aren't capable of reaching the planet Merkur. What else could prove effective? The containment field. Used in Episode 2 in the Clone Wars animated series, a simple combination of electricity, magnets, and a bioscanner allow us to interrupt a Force user's concentration, taking away their ability to focus and use their Force abilities. Of course, some might assert that the Sith might use that pain to fuel their power. I mean, they contain Count Dooku using this, but okay, let's just say it doesn't work. Carbonite. A frozen Force user is cut off from the Force during hibernation. Freeze, dried, Force user. Problem solved. And what more? As a last resort, we could remove their ability to manipulate the Force at all, and decommission them in the process, using the Bardotan Sphere. Also known as the Living Sphere, this artifact drains the living Force from an entity. It can only be activated by a Force-sensitive individual, but in a universe where the Force exists, it's not a stretch to imagine one of our researchers or agents are a practitioner of the Force that we can use for this purpose. It also acts as a battery that can be used to power advanced rituals, meaning that as a bonus, we could utilize said Force energy to another use, such as containing or neutralizing the Scarlet King.
Oh, that would be a really good use for this to get rid of the Scarlet King.
Who knows? Superman is not an SCP, but if it were, how would the SCP Foundation contain it? Superman is as strong as the plot needs it to be. Essentially infinitely strong and fast, flight and heat vision and ice breath and yada yada yada. Think the long fish that the comic gods decided to hamstring this Boy Scout with the most ubiquitous weakness next to the Achilles heel. Say it with me now. Pretty reporters. Oh, and kryptonite. Like a human...
and also magic, if my memory serves right.
Solar panel, Mr. Kent gets its power from the yellow sun, so a properly shielded bunker deep underground would be more than suitable to deprive Soups of its energy source. From there, a properly prepared chamber lined up with kryptonite generously provided by LexCorp would be waiting for our newest resident. Why would Superman fly directly into such a trap? Because of the pretty reporter I mentioned earlier. If I had a nickel for every time I kidnapped an anomalous person's loved one to lead them into a trap, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but
I love that Doofenshmirtz quote with the 2 nickels thing. It gets memed and referenced a lot. I love it so much.
it's weird that it happened twice. Slender Man is not an SCP, but if it were, how would the SCP Foundation contain it? Slender Man is attributed a wide array of abilities, depending on different interpretations of the entity. Some consistent powers are invisibility, teleportation, the ability to turn humans into its proxies, and infecting its prey with what has been dubbed Slender Sickness, a combination of memory loss, paranoia, sleepwalking, nausea, and nosebleeds. There's also the associated phenomenon that it seems to prey on individuals who have knowledge of it. The more you learn about the entity, the more it wishes to attack you. This led to our first, albeit unsuccessful, attempt at containing Slenderman using disinformation. In the early days of the entity's spread, Foundation web crawlers rapidly took down swaths of websites mentioning Slenderman in hopes of keeping the public from attracting its attention. Not only did this fail due to the viral spread of Slenderman intelligence, but several Foundation researchers on the project also inadvertently became victims of the entity themselves. All work on Slenderman past this point was transferred to the Department of Miscommunications, experts at dealing with anomalies that attack you for knowing of them. The final containment protocols were enacted on August 10th, 2018. The entity was lured into a containment chamber using a D-class, at which point the SRAs were activated. Oh, what is an SRA? The Scranton Reality Anchor is a wonderful piece of paratech concocted by our top Foundation researchers. To summarize Dr. James Caldman and Carlos Rzuski's report, reality can be measured in a unit we call humes. Baseline reality measures at 1 hume, and it is possible for certain places or entities to be more or less real than the baseline. Entities with lower hume counts than their surroundings tend to be pushed around by the waves of reality, while entities with higher hume levels than their surroundings are the ones doing the pushing. Using the Scranton Reality Anchor, we can siphon reality from a different universe and bring it to a specific location to balance the humes with the entity, negating the entity's ability to push reality around. Coming back to our dear dapper Slendy, with the trap sprung, reality around the entity balanced, leaving a tall, sad, faceless man pounding at the walls of its prison.
Damn. Oh, this is so good.
With hands and a few errant tentacles. Five Nights at Freddy's is not an SCP, but if it were, how would the SCP Foundation contain it? Due to the extensive lore of the franchise, we will be focusing on the first game for today, and save the rest of the games, the books, the future film, etc. for later installments. Upon hearing about the anomalous animatronics, the Foundation would purchase Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After shutting it down under the guise of a health code violation, a provisional site would be set up around the restaurant. During the day shift, researchers would run experiments on the animatronics, diagnostics on their programming, assembling and disassembling the endoskeletons. Perhaps with some luck, our researchers would successfully discover Remnant far sooner than it was revealed in the lore. At night, we are faced with 2 possibilities. If the animatronics are happy to simply stay in the restaurant at night when it is empty, success! No more containment procedures necessary. However, I'd wager that there's a reason in the original game that there had to be a night guard, such as the animatronics attempted to leave if nobody was in the restaurant. If that's the case, the role of night guard would be filled with a D-class, one with a history of child abuse if the animatronics are particularly picky. If the D-class is adept enough to survive the night, good for them. If not, we've always got more disposable, D-class personnel. And what about Golden Freddy? If it's content to stay in the restaurant as the other animatronics are, I don't see any issue. But if it decides to get feisty and attempts to strike out on its own, well, let's just say that we've got teams that can bust ghosts with the best of them.
Ghostbusters! Like, game theory.
Game theory theorists are not SCPs. But if they were, how would the SCP Foundation contain them? The theorist community acts as a sort of hive mind, although primary direction of the anomaly comes from the self-proclaimed
Are they also going to cover film and food theory?
900 IQ big brain known as Matthew Patrick, or MatPat for short. The entity holds numerous anomalous abilities, the primary of which is cognitohazardous in nature. The entity is capable of reaching into the minds of victims and twisting their memories of beloved childhood media, often in horrifying ways. This is colloquially known as ruining your childhood. The entity also claims to have the ability to predict or theorize the future of currently running franchises. However, due to its poor track record of successful predictions, this dubious claim still requires testing. So, how do we contain this anomaly? Our first instinct was to silence the initial Game Theorist channel using similar special containment procedures to SCP-3949. Members of Mobile Task Force Omicron 5, codename True Fans, would flood the comments section of game theory videos with insults regarding the quality of editing, leaps in logic, and other weak points. Unfortunately, the shameless nature of the MatPat entity resulted in even our strongest rebuke, repeated use of the term cringe, failing to cause it to leave the YouTube platform as intended. By the time we realized the process wouldn't work, spin-off theorist channels had emerged. Beyond that, public knowledge of the anomaly had reached the point where full containment was no longer possible. A small victory, though. Agents embedded within YouTube's corporate structure were able to feed theorist channels through a cognitofilter that inhibits their ability to absorb more victims into the hive mind. Disinformation campaigns are continually running to make sure the general public sees the theorist community as just another YouTube channel. Addendum. Several predictive anomalies report that the fourth slice of the theorist circle is going to be filled in, and that the final slice will be
Data expunged by order of the O5 Council.
Nick Nocturne is
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory! How do you guys like my MatPat impression of the outro? Let me know down in the comments.
not an SCP. But if it were, how would the SCP Foundation contain it? Nick Nocturne is the designation for the Keter-class demon-human hybrid that runs the YouTube channel Nightmind. Nick's demonic capabilities are in line with Foundation
I have no idea who this person is.
understanding. Shapeshifting, greater than human strength at human size, creation and manipulation of hellfire, spirit manipulation, etc. The entity's weaknesses are also well documented, subject to influence of those who know its true name, as well as various sigils and wards of the Abrahamic faiths. Unfortunately for our containment specialists, we have yet to discover the true name of this entity, and as a child of the first demon, Lilith, the power of the necessary wards is currently beyond Foundation knowledge. Even SCP-4357-J, our best source of advanced demonic containment procedures, is unwilling to talk about wards at that level. Due to our inability to successfully contain Nick, the next step in maintaining normalcy would be destruction of the entity. While within our capabilities, doing so would cause a level of collateral damage and civilian loss of life equivalent to a medium-sized city. Not that we wouldn't disappear an entire city, consider the case of Stockton, South Carolina, but we like to avoid that whenever possible. Luckily, Nick is also half human, and has taken a liking to living a mostly human lifestyle. This allowed the Foundation to work out a truce with the entity. Nick maintains public-facing normalcy, and in return, the Foundation doesn't have to resort to extreme measures. On top of that, there is the added benefit that the Nightmind YouTube channel does lend a hand in research of anomalies from time to time. That's a gift horse whose hundreds of demonic mouths I am not looking at. Wanda Maximoff, otherwise known as the Scarlet Witch, is not an SCP. But if it were, how would the SCP Foundation contain it?
I'll watch the Scarlet Witch part and then end the video for part 2.
Hello, I'm Dr. Theron Sherman, and in this series we construct hypothetical containment procedures for non-SCP popular culture entities and objects. Let's begin. Looking at the comics as well as the WandaVision show, we see that Wanda is capable of massive feats of magic. Based on what we've compiled, we feel comfortable classifying her as what we call a reality bender. Reality benders can be some of the most dangerous types of anomalies. When you can reshape your reality to your whims, it's often very hard to justify not doing so, especially when most adversaries can simply be poofed out of existence. Thankfully, there are some tricks up our sleeve for handling this situation. The Scranton Reality Anchor is our favorite get-out-of-jail-free card for reality benders. These babies adjust the humes of an area to match the entity, causing them to be unable to reshape that area. It can be as simple as putting 2 or 3 of them around the containment cell, or if we wanted some comic book level drama, we could construct a spherical containment chamber lined with SRAs as a melodramatic prison worthy of a multiverse scale villain. Of course, there are also other tactics available to us. One of those would be to contain Maximoff near a reality sink. Reality sinks are essentially the opposite of reality benders. They act as a black hole for anomalous energies, depowering nearby anomalies simply by existing. As mentioned in SCP-5004, there are multiple reality sinks known to the Foundation, such as former President Donald Trump, as well as our own Dr. Clef. Of course, there is always a likelihood that we are in far, far over our heads here. Other reality-bending entities we've attempted to contain are SCP-343, who stays in his cell willingly because we are, quote, interesting. SCP-239, an 8-year-old girl who may have created Santa Claus and whom Dr. Clef has proposed plans to terminate. SCP-3999, who was decommissioned through sheer willpower by researcher James Talleyrand only after the entity had put Talleyrand through several millennia of ever-changing tortures. And SCP-3812, a man named Sam Howell, who died, came back to life, worked with the Foundation to control his powers, started displaying schizophrenia-like symptoms while wielding his powers in more and more erratic ways, and after numerous failed containment and neutralization attempts, seemingly ascended to a higher plane or something of a similar nature. Before you comment, this thing happening with my hair is due to...
Alright, that'll do it for part 2. When we go to part 3, we'll be right here discussing Alistair.